But the truth is, we're kind of wired as humans. We believe, fundamentally, we respond to change as negative. We don't like change. Even change that's beneficial, we just don't like it. It ruffles our feathers a little bit, and it takes a minute to get used to. We almost like put up our hands against it first. Wait a minute. Oh, maybe. Oh, okay. Well, if I have to. And then a year from now, that change is where you are now, and this is normal. And some new change comes up, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Why can't I park where I've always parked before? Well, because some pregnant single mama has 3 toddlers that she needs to get in this house, and your legs work fine. That was just for free. You're welcome. So this is a house where you guys are really moving into deliverance ministry. And so you're being equipped in that and trained in that and skilled in that. And that means that things will show up and manifest here that you'll have to deal with, right? That's part of what's going on. The danger, my friends, is that you begin to blame everything negative in your life on demons. But not everything negative in your life has its root in a demonic situation. I'm here to speak to you today about a specific stronghold that rests right here. Somebody say stronghold. Stronghold. That means this thing has a strong hold on my thinking. I'm not talking about a demonic stronghold, although there is a strong man over this region that we're going to talk about. I'm talking about the thing that's between our ears that we don't recognize is there, and that it's hurting us. And it's hurting our family. And it's hurting the generations behind us and behind us and behind us. And unfortunately, the generation that is to come. Now, I'm going to tell you the reason I can speak about this. I have authority to speak on this particular topic because not only am I 7th generation of an unbroken line of ministry family, and that's awesome. Thank God every one of them steward forward and it's unbroken. That's incredible. They also passed something else down for 7 generations. And that was a poverty mindset. Como se de pie a danzar, como se de pie. It was a poverty mindset. The truth is, my people, my line came from Amish and Mennonite, Quaker, and then Southern Baptist, and then my dad jumped off the rails and turned into Pentecostal. But every one of those, there was this poverty was next to godliness. We didn't trust rich people, and we didn't like them, except we really secretly wanted to be just like them. We didn't trust anyone that had wealth or money, and we assumed that they had done something shady to get it, or that it had been handed to them, or they were, we were disadvantaged, and we were almost proud of being poor. I know this is quiet in here, but y'all still love me? I promise I'm not going to leave you hanging. By the time we're done, we're going to break that sucker so big. But I grew up, my earliest memories are in a 10-foot wide mobile home. We didn't even have the 12-foot wide, 10-foot wide. And it had a hallway. So that meant the bedroom could hold like a tiny little twin bed, and you had to open the dresser by kneeling on the bed to open the dresser to touch the bed. Because if you stood up, you couldn't open the dresser. I grew up playing in the dirt under that. And then, my dad was a church pioneer, and we moved around every 18 months or so. And I lived in a series of Amish duplexes. Y'all know what an Amish duplex is? Yeah, it means there is no code involved. It means there are no inspections involved. It's a single family house that an enterprising Amishman has gone inside and said, I'm going to put some plywood up here, and I'm going to put some plywood up here. Now 2 families can live in it. I used to play underneath the plywood, play fingers with the neighbor kids. We bat each other hands. And that's what we had. It was so cold in the winter. I grew up in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and these homes weren't insulated. My parents put army blankets up on the walls, plastic on the windows. And from December through the end of February, we lived in the living room around a little kerosene heater. So I know what it was like to have nothing. I know what it was like to go to school when my mom would take our jeans and she would cut dish towels and sew them to the bottom. It's cool, honey. No, it is not. You go to school in these and see what they say. I knew what it was like to grow up with that. And you don't realize how much, if you've come from nothing, no one ever owned a home. We only ever owned clunker cars. We had hand-me-down clothing. I mean, if we got new underwear for Christmas, it was a good year. So that's what I came up from. That's what I came through. And that poverty mindset of we'll never have enough, no matter how hard we work, anything we have can get taken away, makes you protect things and hold on to things, and must be nice. And that's for other people. Travel is for other people. Education is for other people. We don't have. That's not who we are. That's not where we come from. Is this resonating with anyone? Has anyone had this in your family for generations? We've always rented. We'll never own a home. We could never own a home. We could never afford that. Everything that came forward, the first thing was, well, we don't have enough money. We don't have enough. Other people do. And as a little girl, I learned how to manipulate and poor mouth, hoping that somebody would take pity on me and maybe buy me a new pair of shoes because mom and dad couldn't afford them. Or maybe let me go with their family on vacation because we never went on one. I learned how to manipulate and let people know how poor I was so they could feel sorry enough for me to share what they had with me. It is so quiet in here, Pastor. So first of all, I need you to understand what I'm doing business with today is not you personally. Please don't take my words apart from my spirit. My heart is for you. But this stronghold, I hate. I hate it. And I will speak strongly to it because I hate what it does to people and generations. And the reason I can speak to it is because my husband and I have broken that off of our family, off of our bloodline. We've stepped into a completely different situation, and our children at 20-something are so far ahead of where we were at 40-something because they don't have to plow the same hard ground. So first of all, if you're going to be the pioneer in breaking poverty, how many of you in here would even, you don't have to raise your hand unless you want to, but if you recognize that poverty has been a generational situation handing forward and you are really sick of it, but you know you would be the first one that had to break the ground, would you lift your hand? Yeah, so the pioneers that have to break poverty, listen, y'all need a special grace. It is hard to say, here we go, it's been poverty, 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 and you say this far and no further. It stops. Now that sounds awesome, and it is, but that means all this stuff keeps crashing into the back of you. That's what it's like to break a generational curse, ladies and gentlemen. I would love to say we could just say, broken in Jesus' name. Transformation is not a decision. But no transformation happens until a decision is made. Someone has to decide this far and no further, and then figure out what that actually means and how to work it out. So I want to share a story with you. I think I actually might have shared it in this house before, possibly. But it doesn't matter. I haven't been here in a while, so you don't remember it. So all these years, like I said, seventh generation ministry, first generation entrepreneur. First generation entrepreneur, that's ground to plow, because we began to believe something could be different. Wanted something to be different. We had always been tithers, always. We had always been givers, right? So, Lord, what's the deal? You said you'd open up the storehouse, the windows of heaven, things would come down, you'd rebuke the devourer. I tithe faithfully from the time I earned money. I've always given, my heart's been open, I've been generous. So what's the deal that I'm broke? What's the deal that I'm in debt? What's going on? Because I think I'm doing what your word said to do. But I didn't realize that it was my mind that was limiting me. That it was the way I thought that was limiting me. It was the way that I refused to invest in a hopeful, positive, possible future that was limiting me. My default was we can't afford that. Anybody have that? That's your default? Can't afford that. Something comes up you'd like to do? That's too much money. You confess things like, well, I am not made of money. Anybody ever say that to your children? Honey, we are not made of money. Money does not grow on trees. And we just confess that stuff over and over again. So anyway, once we decided we were going to break out of this, we stepped into entrepreneurship and we started a business, Brave New World. Well, we began to make positive confessions and declarations, and the business started going well, and this is good. We were out of debt, free from debt. For the first time, able to start a savings account, start a retirement account. And y'all, this was 35, 37, 38 years old before we had a first, money in savings. And that was a big deal because we owned a home now. No one else had ever done that. This was a big deal. My husband also came from poverty. We never believed we could own a home. We just expected to be renters our whole life. And there's nothing wrong with renting. Don't take my words apart from my spirit. I'm talking about a mindset. So when we moved into business and began to have some success, we this far and no further, we're going to break this off our kids. Well, can I tell you that stuff kept cracking into our backs? We're trying to protect our children from a poverty mindset, trying to show them, but we were living in a place and we did not have the things all the other children had. We could not afford to do the things all the other families where we were could do. So it was wrapping around their little minds too. And then we went through a season where a crisis happened. Because oftentimes when you decide to break something and you're standing in it, that works great as long as nothing changes. But most of the time, some crisis will confront you. Anyone ever try to draw a healthy boundary with someone who has been toxic in your life? What happens? You draw that boundary, you communicate that boundary, and they go, oh, good, okay. No, they're going to double down. They're going to triple down. Whatever the thing is that crosses the boundary and is toxic, they're going to do it times 10 until you get so tired of holding that boundary, you give up and go back to living whatever toxic lifestyle you've been stuck in. It's the same thing with poverty. When you decide to break it, man, it's like stuff, where did that bill come from? Where did this thing happen? How did that, you're challenged, immediately you're challenged. And we got to a spot where our business was all ministries. Everybody, the business we were in was called Palm Tree Productions, and everything we did was supply for ministries. We did books and publishing and CDs and DVDs and production and design services, and everything we did, all of our clients were ministries. And 2008, 2009 hit, the housing bubble, right? And all 9 of our largest clients filed for bankruptcy right in a row. We had been functioning where, we put something on a credit card for supplies, we make it, we give it, they pay us, we pay the credit card. We put something on a credit card, we make it, we give it to them, we invoice them, they pay us, we pay the credit card. That works as long as they pay us. But when you have 9 of them go belly up right in a row, and you have just charged raw materials, and no money comes in, suddenly we went from 0 debt to over our heads. And this was in 2008, 2009, when we had a 6% credit card, and overnight the banks went to 14% or 19% just because they could. Kind of like now. Maybe credit cards you had at a reasonable percentage, you open it up, 22.5%. And suddenly your minimum payment means it's 40 years until you pay off your debt. So that's what happened to us. We started going under at a rapid rate of speed. So guess what we had to do? We had to open up that savings account and empty it to survive. We had to close that retirement account and empty it to survive. And we are going deeper and deeper and deeper in debt. My heart is broken, and I am back in the land of lack. I'm living in poverty again, poverty of mind. I don't even know how to survive this, God. I don't know how we're going to pay for this mortgage payment. We're probably going to lose this house. Maybe we'll have to file for bankruptcy. I'm covered in shame. I'm covered in anger and bitterness. And one day I went into my bedroom closet, and I got on the floor, and I was just like crying, like ugly crying, snot crying, mascara off crying, complaining, whining, angry, shouting. God, listen, we're faithful and we serve you. If you could you just send us a Boaz that we could glean the edges of their field? I'll work for it, God. I will get on my hands and knees in the dirt. I will scrub toilets. I don't care what I have to do, God. I don't know what to do. Will you just send us a Boaz that we can serve? Send me somebody that needs a service that I can provide so we can make money. God, would you just do that? Could you send me a Boaz? Could you rescue us? And I'm on the floor, and it's quiet, and I'm praying, and I'm just, God, please, just send us something we can do. Send us a ministry we can serve. Help us find a spirit. Something, God, help me. I need help. Something's got to break. Something's got to break. Something's got to break. And I heard God say, baby. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Carpet burns on my face. Baby. Yes, sir. I can bring you a Boaz. Thank you for bringing us a Boaz. Yeah, I said I could bring you a Boaz. And I can bring you a Boaz. If that's what you'd like, I can bring you a Boaz, and you can serve. Or, wouldn't you kind of like to be Boaz? What? Yeah, wouldn't you like to be Boaz, baby? Wouldn't you like to own the field? Wouldn't you like to employ people? Wouldn't you like it if people just by being in proximity to you walked away blessed? Yeah, I think I would like to be Boaz. I think this Ruth stuff, I think I'm over it. I think I would like to be Boaz, God. And I got up off of that closet floor, and something in me had changed. Something in my mind had changed. Because even as an entrepreneur, everything I did was, as long as I work hard, as long as I work harder than anybody else, maybe we can scrape together something. And I always was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Something was about to take away whatever we had, we could lose it tomorrow. And look, it happened. Just like I knew it would, something happened and everything we had disappeared. Because whatever we believe manifests and proves us right. So when I got up off that floor and said yes to God, I will become Boaz. I don't know what that means. I don't know how to be Boaz. I have always been the one that gleaned the edges of the field. I've always been the one that picked up the scraps. I have no idea what ownership means. I have no idea what that means, God, but if you're inviting me into it, you must believe I can do it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll become Boaz. And I got up and I went out and I washed my face and anointed my head with oil, which was, hair gel. Put myself together, and now, okay, I'm just walking around the house. I am Boaz. Boaz, Boaz, Boaz. I own fields. Eventually, I am Boaz. What does Boaz do? What is an owner? I don't know. So I just began to pray in the Spirit because I don't even know what to do. I'm just praying into the Spirit, into my future as Boaz. Now, can I tell you, my bank account did not change. I still was in debt over my eyeballs. It was a great big hole of debt that I had no idea how we were ever going to climb out of. We were behind on everything. I mean, absolutely everything. But now something in my mind has changed. I am Boaz. So I began to step into creativity and resourcefulness and stop saying, we can't afford that. I started saying, how can we afford that? What could we do differently? And we began to imagine ourselves in a different circumstance. My husband and I would jump in the car on Sunday afternoons and drive into the nice neighborhoods. And boy, wouldn't it be lovely to have Thanksgiving dinner in that house? Ooh, it'd be so fun to play football with the kids in a yard like that. And we would drive to places where there was raw construction. You might not have as much of that here in Texas. Man, they just build 27 houses every day. And we would go, I know we were trespassing. I know we were breaking the law, but we would walk through that raw construction and we'd stand there. Sweetie, where would you put the bed in this bedroom? I think I'd put it here. Yeah, I think it might look better over here. And we started acting like it was our home, walking through, wonder what color cabinets we'd put in this kitchen. We started acting like we belonged in those houses. I started driving to, I'd go to a nice hotel and just sit in the lobby. I'm not talking like, Holiday Inn. I would go to the Gaylord Texan or the Four Seasons or something. I would drive, and I didn't park where it cost me money. I parked a long way away. I hiked to the hotel because even the parking was more than I could afford. And I would just sit in the lobby. I'd just sit there and watch the people coming and going. And I'd think to myself, Father, what do they know that I don't know? How do they afford to be here on a Tuesday? How do they afford the room? How do they go to these restaurants? God, what is it that they don't know, that they know that I don't know? I know you don't love them more than you love me. They've just stepped into something that I haven't accessed. So I would sit there and dream about one of these days, I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay at the Four Seasons one day. I'm going to stay in this place. And then eventually I saved up enough money and got bold enough to go into that lovely restaurant. And, I'm just here for coffee. Right? Because even the menu was instant. I can't afford this. Can't afford to eat like this. But I just began to put myself into new places and new spaces. I began to reach into things. At the time, our friend Lance Wallnow was doing these dream trips to Cabo, Mexico. We had never traveled anywhere. And I felt the Lord say to get a passport. Okay, so my husband and I got a passport. Nowhere to go. We just bought a passport. Got a passport. We don't travel. Our family doesn't travel. We bought a passport and just held on to it and held on to it. And a situation arose with a last minute thing that we went and put ourselves in one of these dream trips. And all the people at the dream trips were people that just thought differently than we did. They believed differently than we did. They had come from generational wealth. They had come from, why am I telling you this? Why am I telling you this? Because it has to start in your mind, guys. Your circumstances will never, ever change until you can change it in your mind. I need you today to believe that things can be different for you and your children than they were for your parents and the grandparents before you. I need you to understand that when you stand here and say the words, I'm breaking a stronghold, that you actually have to break the stronghold. You actually have to actively participate in confronting that stronghold every single day. What comes out of your mouth every single day? What comes out of your mind, our ideas become our beliefs. We've talked about don't believe the lie, don't believe the lie. But we still believe the lie. We still believe the lie that well, this area, there aren't good jobs in this area. Nobody makes good money in this area, or what's available. And you know what? Maybe they don't. But maybe a spark of entrepreneurism is going to spark into this place today. And maybe somebody's going to start some businesses that are brand new, that have never been here before, and you're going to create the best paying jobs Vineland, New Jersey has ever seen. Maybe someone's going to step into the creativity and resourcefulness of heaven and say, just because things have always been this way before, that doesn't mean that's how they have to stay. Somebody has to be first. I am looking today for some pioneers to break the poverty mentality. To say, I'm going to be willing to stand in the gap and say, I need to think differently. Whatever it is I'm doing is not working. Something else needs to happen. I want to step into a season of abundance. I want you to believe that you can begin to wrap some skill around the natural abilities God has given you, and that effort and that investment is going to give you a reward. It's worth investing in yourself. When you've got a poverty mentality, I can't afford. There's no personal development growth pattern. We only show up to free things. I know, I'm sorry if your toes are a little scrunchy right now. If you only show up to free things and you won't invest in yourself, except you probably have a Netflix account. There's something that you do, that you spend money on, that is for self-medication, that is to soothe the poverty, that is to soothe the emptiness, that is to soothe the ache, that is to soothe the frustration, that is to soothe the anger and the bitterness. There's something that you're spending money on to medicate, that if you would just instead spend money to educate, it might be as simple as buying a book and deciding to read it regularly. It might be as simple as taking a class. There's so many free online classes. Most of my education came from Google University. I'm a YouTube U alumni. When I went into business, I knew nothing about publishing, guys. I knew nothing. But I just said, what do I need to know? What do I need to find out? And I stepped into it. So I know this is not, especially after such a deliverance and spiritual, but I'm here to say that some of you are holding a shovel and you need a hole dug. And you're holding the shovel and you're singing, God's gonna do it. God's gonna do it. He's gonna take me to it. He's gonna lead me through it. Come on, I need a hole. I believe a hole. A hole's gonna happen. Come on, where's that hole? I'm believing, I'm praying. I'm gonna mark, there's a hole coming. 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 And God's like, baby, you see that shovel that I provided for you? And I have given you the gift of hole digging. And my purpose requires, this hole needs to be dug because this is going to be the foundation for what I'm called you to build. And you're waiting for me to build the building. And I'm saying, we're partners. I'm saying, I breathe life into you. I'm saying I breathe strength into you. I've given you health in your bones. I've given you muscles. I've given you a brain. I am not digging that hole for you. I called you to dig the hole. I gave you the shovel. Three generations later, hole's gonna come, the hole's gonna come, the hole's gonna come. Someday, the hole's gonna come, the hole's gonna come. You're gonna do it, God's gonna do it, God's gonna do it. And God does a lot of things for us, but mostly, God does things through us. What's in your hand, Moses? What natural gifts has he given you? What joy? What brings you joy to do? What are the things that you feel excited about or have an inclination to do? We talk so much about bloodline curses, and they need to be broken. They need to be broken. But what is in your bloodline blessing? Because can I tell you, bloodline blessing is every bit as strong as bloodline curse. All we have to do is access it. And you might have to do a little digging in your family tree to find out how far back somebody had a gift and an anointing and put their hand to it. You know how we can see it that musicians run in families, right? We can see sometimes that communication or acting or words run in families. I'm going to tell you, real estate runs in a family. People who have real estate wealth, that tends to run in families, and everybody knows how to invest. If you've got a bloodline curse and poverty is the situation, that's because way back at here, maybe 3, 4, 5 generations back, somebody dropped the ball. You need to go back and pick it up. What is in my bloodline that belongs to me? Because if I trace it back far enough, I'm going back to Father Abraham. And that was wealth as far as the eye could see. That was cattle on 1,000 hills. That was more than the sands of the sea. I come from royalty. Guys, you're the bride of Christ. You know what that means? You're a signer on the joint account. You're not hearing me. You're a signer on the joint. You're the beneficiary. You're a signer on the joint account, and he trusts you to administrate his estate. And sometimes we have to step into it by faith long before it shows up in the natural. You got to step into it in the spiritual, and you got to cement it around your mind. You got to say things like, I am a wealthy woman. I am a wealthy woman. I create jobs. I create employment for others. Just being in proximity to me means you're going to be blessed. And I kid you not, I would stand in my living room long before I had anything to do. I would stand in my living room and say, one day this will be me, God. And my assistants, I've had a few over the years, will tell you when we get done with an event, I love writing checks to vendors. Writing check to pay for the catering, writing check to pay for the room, writing check to the guest speaker, I love doing it. And you know what I do before we mail them? I love to be a blessing to people. I love it when somebody knocks on my doors and says, you want me to mow your grass? Yes, I do. How much? And I give them double when they leave. Why? Because I decided I was going to. Because I decided it didn't matter that no one in my bloodline ever had before. I decided that I was going to live in the blessing of the Lord. He overtakes me. The blessings of the Lord chase me down and overtake me. He brings me wealth and he adds no sorrow to it. I am blessed to be a blessing. When in 2020, we decided we were going to sell the home we were in. Our kids were all done with school now, and this home was not in a neighborhood that we wanted to live in. Right? There was crime now in this neighborhood. There was some drug activity in this neighborhood. We'd lived there a long time. So we decided we were going to sell the home. And we talked to the realtor. God gave us a number, what the house was worth. And the realtor was like, that's hilarious. Your house is not worth that much money. And the first thing I was like, oh, well, she's the expert. I mean, she knows. She just showed me all the comps. So I don't know, baby. Did you hear? Maybe we didn't hear right. Maybe we should pray again. We got the same number. Okay. So we talked to our realtor. Well, this is what we're going to list it for. I mean, I can do that. But I'm just telling you, even if somebody agreed to give you that much money for your house, it is never going to appraise. Never going to appraise. And I said, well, my banker said. That it was already done. So we put the house on the market, and just a few people came through. We got the offer on the house. Awesome. So now we have an appraiser coming. Well, the day before my appraisal, the house that's one street away, that has had so many upgrades put in it since it was built, mine has not. So this house, same square footage, same blueprint, one street away from me, and they close on a sale much lower than what I need mine to appraise. This is a nicer house. And my realtor's like, now listen, you know, that appraiser's going to use that as a comp. It's never happening. And I said, my banker said. So I decided to start praying. And I decided I was going to be present when our appraiser came. And I made the house. It smelled good. I had like all the essential oils going on. I had every light on with all the lovely dimmer switches. I had music on. I had unsweet tea and sweet tea because I didn't know whether he was from the north or the south. I had everything ready for him when he came. And he didn't show up on time. He was frustrated because he went to the house a street away, and he had started an appraisal there for a house that was already closed on. So he showed up at my door irritated. He'd already put in like 45 minutes of something that didn't matter. Like, how do many of you know that's not a great situation for your appraiser to show up irritated? But I just began to build rapport with him and talk to him where he came from. Oh, you're from California and you got kids, and how do you like Texas? And so here's the thing. I just began to put the number in the atmosphere, what I needed per square foot. So I was like, yeah, all my friends in Pennsylvania think I'm crazy because I'm asking $97 a square foot. They just think that's insane. They would never, how could you do that? I just put the number in the atmosphere again and again, exactly how much I wanted per square foot. And can I tell you, the appraiser came back and he gave me exactly the number that I put in his head. Because my banker said. And so we were able to sell that house and leave with enough money to move into the house we're in now, which is the kind of house we used to drive around and dream, baby, someday I want a dining room where I can sit 14 people. Can I tell you, I have a dining room table that sits 14 people. And can I also tell you that I'm faithful to fill that dining room table up regularly. It doesn't collect dust. I use it for exactly what God told me to, which was to gather people around the table, fellowship, break bread, share the love of Jesus, and show them that the world can be a better place. It's not my house, it's His. And anything He asked me to do with it, I do. Anyone He asked me to share it with, I share it with. It's open continuously. And I did that way back when I had nothing but lawn chairs in my living room. When I had lawn chairs in my living room, I invited millionaires into my home for dinner. I'm not kidding. Did I feel shame sometimes? Yes. Did I want to apologize sometimes? Yes. But I learned enough to hold my tongue and say, silver and gold have I none, but such as I have give I thee. Come on into my house, because in my house there is joy. In my house we break bread and celebrate. They might come from a broken family or a hurting family. I never have let what I didn't have keep me from stepping into what I knew I was supposed to become. And if I can just put that in your mind today, I don't care where you come from. I don't care what level of advantage or disadvantage you have. I don't care if you're 5th generation, 7th generation, 1st generation. What I want you to know is God said, I have things for you. I need you to agree with them, pick up the shovel, and dig the dang hole. What's in your hand, ladies and gentlemen? What is it that you need to break off of your mind, out of your speech? I would encourage you to begin to stand up in the morning and say, I am wealthy. I am wealthy. The blessing of the Lord overtakes me, chases me down. I am blessed to be a blessing, the Abrahamic covenant, which, by the way, when we did our house appraisal, I claimed the Abrahamic covenant over my entire neighborhood because my appraisal is going to bless every other homeowner in this neighborhood. Just by being in proximity to me, Mrs. Boaz, they're going to have a blessing that they didn't even know about because they didn't know my banker was a better qualifier than their banker. I am blessed to be a blessing. I am blessed. Look at your neighbor, say, I am blessed to be a blessing. The blessing of the Lord makes me rich, and he adds no sorrow to it. And I encourage you prophetically, actually right now prophetically, I want everyone to do this. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will men give into your bosom. And I challenge you before this week is out that you decide something you are going to learn that you don't know today. Look it up on YouTube. Take a course. Buy a book. Do something that says, you know who I am today? My future is calling me. And I might need to know some things I don't know today. Opportunity meets preparation. You prepare today for the thing you want to step into tomorrow. If you want a promotion on your job, start dressing like you already got it. Stop doing the least you can do for this job. Start doing more than you have to. Woo! Woo! That's not what our culture says right now, right? This is the man, and I'm not getting paid enough to do. Nobody, they don't get paid to do that. That's not my job. But you know what? Every time I've ever been around people that they start doing not only their job, but maybe one step outside their job, guess what? The promotion happens. Because where does promotion come from? The Lord. You're not working for XYZ who signed your check. Who are you working for? The Lord. So if you were just doing the bare minimum you can do to get by with, who do you think you're offending? You cussing your boss. But you're not working for your boss. That boss is just the conduit through which money currently flows to you. And someday you're going to be the conduit through which money flows to other people. Now, put yourself in the position, now I'm Mrs. Conduit. Do I want someone working for me who acts like me? Would I hire myself to do my job if I was the boss? It's quiet again, Pastor. I know, this is really practical. This is really practical stuff, and we've been in that spiritual zone. And thank God, thank you, worship team, for plowing the ground. Plowing the ground, plowing the ground. Because then, can I tell you, even preaching about this, I've stepped into this authority, and I've broken the poverty spirit, but it doesn't take much to have a trigger that makes me shrink in my thinking. I can just see a medical bill come in. It doesn't even matter how much. It might just be my copay. But we had so much debt and so many issues that were surrounding medical that just a bill from a doctor's office makes my chest tighten. And I almost can't open it. I just stand there and look at it. It'll send me right back into this place. Even when I'm here years away, I got more than enough money in my checkbook to pay that bill. But just the sight of it will trigger me into thinking of lack. You know how I respond? I give somebody something. I open up Venmo and I send somebody, I love you, here's some money. Because I know for me, poverty made me hold and protect. What I have could be taken away and I don't have enough. I know the spirit of abundance says, none of this is mine anyway. There's so much more. I can never, it's coming. Money comes to me because I'm creative and I'm resourceful and I know how to dig with the shovel God gave me. And once I learned how to dig, you know what? I found out that I also learned how to mix concrete to pour the foundation for the thing he asked me to build. So I just really want to encourage you today that wherever you are, there is more. Say, there is more. That God has something for me. Do you believe it? Can you hold each other accountable to it? When you see someone, say, what book are you reading? What class are you taking? Are you working on any skills? Are you working on some people skills? What are you working on? What are you doing to become the best at what you do? How are you shining? Could we just get in the habit of provoking one another unto godliness and good works? How you doing? Man, I'm so tired. Wow, that's rough. I'm sorry you're tired. What are you reading? Right? We tend to commiserate with each other with need and with lack and with what we don't have and what we can't get and how burdened down we are. But when you decide to be a buoy, to be light, to be life, man, can I tell you, you attract increase. The poverty mindset attracts decrease. Like a magnet, even what you have gets sucked out of your pocket before it ever gets there. That's what a poverty mentality does. When you step into abundance, you attract increase. You attract opportunities. You attract blessings. Things that you had no idea will just suddenly show up out of the blue, and you'll be amazed at the opportunities God has for you. What kind of job opens up for you? What kind of promotion opens up for you? And I just want to leave this deposit that Chestnut Assembly, y'all, you're living in an area, Vineland has a strong man of poverty, right? There's a spiritual principality. We wrestle not with flesh and blood, but against principalities. And I believe this church, because of its dedication to deliverance and freedom, because of its desire to love people and see people not just come as you are, but to come as you are and grow into who you're supposed to become. If all of you could band together and say, as a body, we are stepping out of the poverty mentality. We are going to lock arms side by side like a Roman phalanx and nothing gets through. If we do it together, we could break the ground over this whole entire area. We could step into the Abrahamic covenant and just people who live close to us get blessed because we plowed the ground. Because they came inside the labor that we were willing to do. That things break off of them easier because we were willing to say, you know, Matt, no matter the cost, no matter the price, no matter how hard, I this far and no further. You guys hold the key to the generation that's behind you. And if you are willing to step into that pioneering spirit and say, you know what, I don't know anything, but I'm going to learn. Because I found out when you're Boaz, you got to pay property taxes. And you got to deal with employment issues. And you got to deal with regulations. And you got to deal with land. It's work to be Boaz. All things being equal, it was a lot easier just to be Ruth and pick up the scraps. I had my daily bread, and I could complain about the man. Once I stepped over to here, and I understood that the responsibility and authority that comes with being a blessing to others means I had to learn things I didn't know. And I had to gather people around me as a team to help me do the things that I didn't have the capacity for. So I want to warn you that stepping into Boaz means you are agreeing to get pushed. You're agreeing to break through something that you've never touched before. And I believe some of you are like, that sounds good, and I'm fine right here being Ruth. Amen. You go, girl. That's good for you. But I can feel it. Some of you, something is stirring. Some of you, something is burning to say, no, my kids, I'm breaking this off for my kids. I'm not letting this happen again. My kids are going to have things I never had. I'm going to have things I never had. Yes,